Lions Hope years before that, where you have to memorize reams of dialogue in a very short period of time. And she was quite adept at doing this kind of work with reams of dialogue that had to be spot on perfect. You couldn't paraphrase on Star Trek. It had to be exactly as it was written. And they would change it as often as 11 o'clock at night. You would get revisions at your house. You're damn near asleep, if not already asleep. You may not get them until the next morning, and then you got to read them while you're getting your makeup on. Well, she could do that. She'd have 6 scenes in a row in a day, 14-hour day, and she would rarely ever blow a line. She hardly ever messed up a line. I don't know how she did it, but that's the way she did it. And if you couldn't do that, you'd never be able to make it. You'd have to use key cards or whatever it is to get through the scenes. It is a tremendous amount of dialogue, a tremendous amount of work to do this kind of shooting, where the producers and the writers make so many changes all the time. That's the way all these shows are done. I've gone out to read for shows, on some TV shows, the part wasn't even written yet. I was reading dialogue from the episode before that. For a character that was kind of like the one they were writing, because they didn't have it written, and they were so far behind. Yes, over here. You got a question? Somebody had a question over here. Yes, right. I'll get you and then I'll get him.
Sure.
Okay.
How you heard about this part, and were you concerned about the comparison to the plot?
Well, my role initially when I did the feature film Generations, I was on there as a tactical officer on the bridge, not a Vulcan, human. And at the time, Rick Berman, the producer, said, I'm putting together a series for Voyager, called Voyager, rather, that I'm going to read for people in July of that year. They said, I'd like to have you come in and read for it. So I thought that was fabulous, because I knew that the show would probably stay on for 7 years at least. And that's something that my agent and I were trying to nail down as a series that would stay on for a while. I've done a few of them before that, but they didn't stay on. So I said, well, yeah, we got to be available for that, because I could just easily end up on Baywatch for 7 years. It could have been. I mean, to me, it's just a phone call and an audition, and whatever I get, I get. So it turns out that the character that developed for my character was initially in his 60s. He was supposed to be older than what we ended up with. He was supposed to be 60s or plus. And they decided to lower the age to, 30s, 40s, whatever, and I was able to get in. Otherwise, I would not have been able to do the part. And so it was a matter, I had already worked for Rick Berman, for Deep Space Nine, Next Generation, and then the feature film Generations. I read for the original role of Geordi LaForge for Next Gen. It was only down between him and I. It was the two of us. And they went with LeVar Burton, so because he was the only recognizable American name in the show. So they knew who I was. I went back and auditioned for stuff all the time, and finally started working on it. So that's a 7-year process. It took 7 years to get to Voyager. It took 7 years of going back and forth and reading for stuff. It didn't happen overnight, not by a long shot. Yes. Was that him? I think if there's any more Star Trek, it's probably going to be feature films for right now. I think people are pitching series every month. They've pitched 12 or 13 series ideas to CBS. And the problem is that if they're going to shoot that thing, they're going to have to shoot it in your country, because they can't afford to shoot it anywhere else. It's very expensive to shoot that show, and they don't want to spend money anymore. That is why you have reality shows, because they don't cost any money. Nobody wants to spend any money. They just want to make money. So scripted shows, there are far few between. And sci-fi, all the sci-fi shoots in Toronto. Every science fiction show you have shoots in Canada. They shoot up here because they can't afford to shoot it in the States. Paramount CBS, because it's a Paramount show, they're likely to shoot that on the Paramount lot. And the problem is it costs a lot of money, and they don't want to spend that kind of money. So chances of them shooting a series is, I'm not sure about that. I think they're going to figure out how to get it if they want to spend that kind of bread for a sci-fi show. Because you operate at a loss for a number of years before you make a profit. You have to go into syndication. Yes?
Am I right in feeling that you were kind of into Star Trek before you started working on Voyager, more so than some of the other cast members, and that you sort of?
No, it was to be last if I was heavy into Star Trek prior to shooting the series. Not really. I mean, what happened was that when I said that I had watched the series a lot beforehand, it's because back in the days, you know, when I used to walk uphill to school, to and back from school uphill, in the old days. It was different back then. We only had 3 channels back then, just 3. And the syndication process had just started. So we had reruns of I Love Lucy, Gilligan's Island, Three Stooges on occasion, and Star Trek. Those shows ran all the time, year-round. So consequently, I saw a lot of Star Trek. And I knew the bloody thing by the time I got to where I was going. I've seen it about 1,000 times. Oh, Twilight Zone, too. Twilight Zone. So, the classic ones, the black and white ones. So, there's a lot of those that have aired so many times, you know, that by the time we got to this thing, yeah, I knew the show backwards and front. I wasn't going to conventions. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I just knew the show. Because that was all we had. We was that on the regular TV, but it was only 3 channels. You didn't have 150 cable channels. So that's how I got familiar with the show. Fortunately for me, because when it came time to do the audition, I knew that character. I knew how to play that character. And I knew how he had to be played in order to make it work. Yes.
Fans of any such series tends to be a little intense. Have you ever had any just really, really funny or awkward or just odd moments when it comes to deal with that?
Have I had any very awkward or unusual moments with fans? Not really. You know, I've been to conventions from Australia all the way to England and Italy. I mean, I've been all over the world with these things, and they're basically, the fans are basically the same. I did have a strange moment in a video store once. I was in a video store looking at the time, I think it was still VCR tape. But in the video store, and the guy standing next to me was a Maasai warrior. The guy was completely dressed in full African garb. He was tattooed. All over his head had tattoos. He had earrings that stretched his ears all the way down to here. He had plates in his lips that were that big around. He was standing next to me. He looked like he walked right out of the magazine, man. Right out of the documentary. Looking at videotapes. And he turned to me and he said, "We watch Star Trek Voyager in Kenya. We like your show very much." Holy boy. I was not expecting that. Not in the least was I expecting that. So it was a really big surprise. It was a very strange moment. I could just say it was strange and unexpected. But it wasn't like, you know, as far as the more typical or average fandom, there's been nothing that's been absolutely insane or unusual. I was in Spain once because I heard myself in Spanish and German, which is interesting. But I was in Spain once. I was in Alicante, southern Spain, visiting some relatives out there, and the TV in the hotel went on the blink, didn't work. And so we called the hotel staff, and the guy comes down to fix the TV. So I'm standing next to him while he's fixing the television. And finally, he pulls something around back there, and he gets the picture. The picture pops on, and it's freaking Voyager. And it's me on the bridge in Voyager. And the guy's watching the TV, and he looked up at me, looked back down, and he looked up at me, and looked back down again, and he took off running to tell his friends he was in the hotel that he worked with. He took off running, and he was like, "Oh my God." That was the most bizarre moment I think I've had as far as, I mean, literally. I don't know what we were watching before that, but that's not what was on. And then this thing comes on in Spanish, and it's, as I'm standing next to him, comes on, and it's me standing next to the, at the tactical station talking about something, and And it was on. It was like, it was unreal. That time, I don't think if you planned that, it would never have worked. Yes.
I remember watching an interview with Kate talking about how grueling some of the physical aspects of her acting was, especially when they put her in a Rambo outfit, running around the bridge with the figures and the back.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
How did you find that